All right, good afternoon. Thank you for your usual patience. The Secretary General will be heading out of New York very shortly to head to Japan, as we've told you, where he will attend the 9th Tokyo International Conference on African Development, which will actually take place in Yokohama. And he will then from there go on to stop by Osaka to visit the Expo 2025, visit the UN Pavilion and others before heading back to New York. In Japan, the Secretary General is scheduled to hold a meeting with the Prime Minister of Japan, Shigeru Ishiba, as well as other officials, including Iwaya Takeshi, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Japan. This will be in Yokohama on the sidelines of the conference. This is the Secretary General's 7th visit to Japan, and it will highlight the cooperative relationship between the United Nations and Japan. TICAD is also a very important platform, as we've been telling you, to discuss ways to support Africa's development. Turning to the situation in Gaza, our colleagues at the Office of the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs warn that the situation is now beyond catastrophic. Amid ongoing hostilities and extreme hunger, more deaths are recorded every day. Hunger-related deaths continue to be reported, including among children. Partners tell us that last week in the north and the south of Gaza, more than 80 community kitchens were able to produce some 380,000 meals each day. Back in April, the daily tally of community kitchens was more than 1 million meals each day. Communities rely on hot meals once a day from these kitchens, but the amount they're able to cook remains insufficient to meet the needs of the population in Gaza. The World Food Program, for its part, said that the teams are doing everything they can to deliver food to people, but the supplies remain far below standards, less than what is half of WFP's daily target. The agency said the organized distribution, WFP-supported hot meals and bakeries depend on far more aid than is actually getting into Gaza. The Ministry of Health in Gaza said that 5 people, including 2 children, died over the last 24 hours due to malnutrition and starvation. To prevent such deaths, as we've been saying repeatedly, humanitarians must be able to deliver food at scale and consistently through all available crossings and routes to reach the population of 2.1 million people, half of whom are children. Yesterday, 8 out of the 12 missions requiring coordination with the Israeli authorities were facilitated without impediments. They included the transfer of nutritional supplies and fuel to the north. One mission was to replace a water pipeline in Deir al-Balah, and that mission was denied. 3 others were impeded but eventually fully accomplished, including the collection of food aid from the Zikim crossing and the Karim Abu Salam crossing. Movements restrictions also included holding points and long waiting lines inside the strip, hinder the delivery of aid and supplies to people who are in desperate need. We've seen the Israeli authorities' announcement that they will lift the ban on shelter supplies, which have not been allowed to enter the Gaza Strip in 5 months. This is welcome development as the need for shelter and household items has increased. Our partners estimate that at least 1.35 million people need emergency shelter and some 1.4 million need essential household items. This represents an increase of about 4% and 8% respectively compared with just June a few months ago. However, we're also concerned that the announcement by the Israeli authorities comes in connection with the looming announced expansion of their military activities in Gaza City. This would displace thousands of people once again into an overcrowded area in the south of the Strip, which is almost devoid of the most basic infrastructure and services, including food, water, food, and medical services. Since early March, when the Israeli shelter ban came into force, more than 780,000 displacements have taken place. Existing shelters have deteriorated or been left behind amid repeated displacement orders. Yet again, we repeat that we will not participate in any forced displacement of people. We and our partners reiterate our commitment to serve people wherever they are. All civilians must be protected, whether they choose to stay or whether they choose to move. Those who decide to move must have their essential needs met, and they must be able to voluntarily return from when the situation allows. We also need unimpeded humanitarian access across all of Gaza, including community-based distributions and supplies entering its scale through all possible crossings, as we've been saying. All available supplies must be let into Gaza, including through the northern crossings. Turning to the situation West Bank, our colleagues at OCHA report that attacks, harassment, and intimidation by Israeli settlers against Palestinians are continuing. We, of course, stand against violence by settlers, which undermines Palestinian safety, livelihoods, and dignity. We call once again for the protection of these Palestinians in the West Bank, including East Jerusalem. Heading north to the situation in southern Lebanon, where the UN peacekeeping force in Lebanon continue to support the Lebanese armed forces in their efforts to clear southern Lebanon of unauthorized weapons caches and infrastructure. On Saturday, peacekeepers discovered a deep tunnel in the Khiam in Sector East and reported it to the Lebanese army as that has been the procedure. Last Thursday, another tunnel was found near Beit Leaf in Sector West. UN peacekeepers also found unauthorized weapons caches, including mortar guns with explosive rounds, as well as rocket launchers near Ayat Ashab in Sector West, which were all referred to the Lebanese army. As part of the mission's efforts to build capacity of the Lebanese army, UNIFIL peacekeepers trained Lebanese army soldiers on tactical communications procedures last week. Meanwhile, UNIFIL continued to observe Israeli Defense Force military activities in its area of operations, including 4 airstrikes in Sector East on Friday and drone overflights over the Blue Line just yesterday. And turning to Ukraine, our colleagues in the Office of the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs tell us that attacks over the weekend killed and injured civilians across Ukraine. Homes and other civilian infrastructure were damaged. Authorities also report that the cities of Kharkiv and Zaporizhzhia sustained most of the casualties and damages. The regions of Donetsk, Kherson, Sumy, and Odessa were also impacted. Humanitarian partners supported by UN agencies provided immediate assistance. The operating environment for humanitarian organizations continued to deteriorate. In the first half of this year, at least 4 aid workers were killed, more than 30 were injured, and 100 security incidents were reported in Ukraine. Incidents involving harm to personnel, assets, and facilities rose from 61 last year to 103 so far this year, reflecting the high risk, particularly in the front lines, due to increased short-range drone attacks. Meanwhile, humanitarians continue to support people fleeing the hostilities in Donetsk and Dnipro regions as authorities expand mandatory evacuation orders for families with children. Assistance include transport and support at transit sites. Between the 15th and the 17th of August alone, around 3,700 people, including 370 children, were evacuated from frontline areas in the Donetsk region. That's what local authorities are telling us. Meanwhile, humanitarian partners tell us that the needs remain high. The transit site of Pavlorad, due to large influx of evacuees, particularly for shelter for older people and those people with disabilities. Turning to Sudan, the Office of the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs is alarmed by reports of yet another deadly attack on the famine-stricken camp of Abu Shuk. That is, on the outskirts of the besieged city of El Fasher. Local sources report that the Rapid Support Forces attacked the displacement site, which is hosting tens of thousands of people. More than 30 civilians were reportedly killed and 100 people were said to be injured. That's what UN humanitarian partners are telling us. You'll recall that this is the second deadly assault in just a week to target the Abu Shuk camp. We told you about an attack a week ago that already reportedly killed 40. Across North Darfur, humanitarian needs continue to rise, including in Tawila, where more than 300,000 people have sought safety since April. About 98% of displaced households there are unable to meet their basic needs. That's what the rapid assessment by our partner, the Norwegian Relief Council, says. We, along with our partners, Norwegian Refugee Council, we, along with our partners, are providing vital aid wherever and whenever possible. Despite insecurity and access constraint, our partners, our humanitarian colleagues continue to call for safe and unhindered humanitarian access across Sudan and urge all parties to uphold their obligations under international law. This morning, turning to South Sudan, this morning Martha Poby, the Assistant Secretary General for Africa, briefed council members on the situation in South Sudan. She expressed our concern that the current military posture and ongoing operations will spur yet more violence and make intercommunal conflict even worse. She reiterated our peacekeepers' commitment to provide support to South Sudan and its people. Ms. Poby noted that the humanitarian situation in South Sudan is alarming. Funding cuts, she said, are leaving millions without life-saving assistance. And just to note that halfway through the year, the humanitarian needs and response plan for South Sudan is only 28.5% funded. Between April and July, some 7.7 million people faced high levels of acute food insecurity, including 83,000 people at risk of catastrophic conditions. You will have seen that over the weekend we issued a statement in which the Secretary General expressed his deep sorrow at the lives tragically lost due to the recent flash floods in India and Pakistan. Hundreds of people have been reportedly killed and many more still missing. The Secretary General offered his condolences, his most sincere condolences to the victims' families, and says he stands in solidarity with those affected by this disaster. And in both countries, the governments are taking the lead in response to the damage from these floods. But of course, the UN country teams are at the disposal of the governments to provide necessary assistance should it be requested. And you may have seen late on Friday, we issued a statement in which the Secretary General said he was deeply saddened at the passing of Assistant Secretary General Ishakirabo Kaisira, that she passed away on the 12th of August. She, as you know, served as the head of the UN Support Office in Somalia since February of 2023. We send our condolences to her family, her friends, and colleagues. And lastly, we have a new resident coordinator appointment. Ingrid McDonald, as of today, assumed her role as the UN resident coordinator in Albania, following host country approval. Our Australian colleagues brings more than 25 years of experience in development cooperation, humanitarian action, peace building. She was recently the UN resident coordinator in Bosnia-Herzegovina and previously served in roles in OCHA, the Norwegian Refugee Council, and Oxfam. Edie, then Ibtisam.
Thank you, Steph. Does the Secretary General have any comment on the outcome of the summit meeting in Alaska between Russian President Vladimir Putin and U.S. President Donald Trump? And does he have any hopes for the meeting today between President Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky?
Well, I mean, we took, going all the way back to Friday, we took note of the meeting. Obviously, we always welcome constructive dialogue among member states. Focusing on what is happening as we speak, the Secretary General is obviously following the discussions in Washington very closely. We remain deeply concerned over the continuing deadly Russian attacks that we've seen across Ukraine. The Secretary General reiterates his call for a just, comprehensive, and sustainable peace in Ukraine, one that fully upholds Ukraine's sovereignty, independence, territorial integrity within its internationally recognized borders, in line with the UN Charter, international law, and relevant UN resolution. We, of course, stand ready to support any meaningful efforts towards that end. Ibtisam Azam.
Thank you. First of all, my question about talking about new appointments, the Middle East coordinator, what's going on with Mr. Sack?
What's up with that?
Yes,
Yeah.
especially in these times.
It is obviously it is ongoing. In the meantime, Mr. Alek Barov, who's the humanitarian coordinator, is the officer in charge and very much leading the office with all the experience he brings from various crisis zones.
This has been vacant for more than, I think, 6 months. No, 8.
No, Sigrid left in June, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, but she
It
was
seems
not. She was like.
But it wasn't vacant.
Okay.
I mean,
so, but you had 9 months to. So, did the Secretary General?
I mean, the search is ongoing. It's always, let's be honest, it can be a little challenging finding people with the right profile, people who are willing to go, and people who are accepted by all parties involved.
I have then a question on UNIFIL. So, as you know, UNIFIL mandate is set to expire end of the month.
We do know.
Yeah,
We've noticed.
you took notice, and there is a discussion at the Security Council regarding the new draft resolution. What does the Secretary General want to see?
Well, I mean, as you know, the Security Council will, through its collective wisdom, take the decision that it will take. As we've been saying every day, almost, and pointing out every day, the critical work that UNIFIL does. I mean, I just read it out today in terms of not only observing and reporting back, but its active role in the implementation of Security Council 1701, in supporting the Lebanese armed forces, in helping the Lebanese government reassert its authority over all of the territory in the south. We have always felt and known that UNIFIL is a presence of stability along the blue line.
Just a quick follow-up. I mean, as probably you know, regarding the discussions in the Security Councils, and that the Americans, according to media reports, are not interested in renewal of the mandate except for a shorter period of time, 6 months or maybe 1 year. And ending the mandate. What would that mean for you?
Well, listen, I don't think it's never very constructive for the Secretariat to get involved and comment on media reports while negotiations are going on intensely. I think I've laid out what we think of UNIFIL. What UNIFIL has done. We talk about it, as I said, almost every day. I think the Secretary General, when he was there earlier this year, I saw firsthand the amazing work that they're doing in very dangerous conditions, and the vital work that they're doing, notably in implementing the Security Council's own resolution 1701. Gabriel, and then we'll go back.
Thank you, Steph. I know the UN isn't a party to the Gaza ceasefire talks. However, there are reports that Hamas has accepted a new ceasefire proposal mediated by Qatar and Egypt. Do you have any initial thoughts?
I think there's been a lot of ups and downs on these negotiations. I think bringing hope to people in Gaza, bringing hope to the families of the hostages. So let me wait till we see something a bit official before we comment. Madame.
My name is Ray. I'm with 21st Century Business Herald, Guangdong, China. So I have a follow-on question about the meeting between Putin and Trump in the past week in Alaska. So how does the United Nations view this meeting in the broader context of economic stability, global economic stability, and international cooperation from a more probably positive perspective?
I think constructive dialogue between member states, especially between two permanent members of the Security Council, between two countries as active on the world stage as the Russian Federation and the United States, is always to be welcomed. Okay, anyone online? Yes, Abdelhamid. Hamid. Hamid.
Well, thank you, Steph. I have a few questions. First, on Friday, the security minister of Israel stormed the cell of Palestinian leader Marwan Barghouthi, was jailed. He was sentenced to life. I didn't see any reaction from the Secretary General, but when a video was broadcast by Hamas about an Israeli captive, there was an emergency meeting with the Security Council. I mean, compare the atrocities committed by broadcasting a video of a captive.
Abdelhamid, with all due respect, I would encourage you to reread the transcripts of the briefings you missed, because I did react on behalf of the Secretary General regarding the I don't know what you want to call it, the visit or of Mr. Ben-Gvir into Mr. Barghouthi's cell, and I talked about it and described it and talked about how disturbing the whole thing was. But so it's in the transcript. And as for the Security Council's reaction, you should ask them. Your next question.
My second question, the number of people who died out of man-made famine is 263 and 112, including 112 children. I haven't seen these numbers coming in your briefing.
I talked about it again today. I've been giving numbers. As soon as we have those numbers, I give them out. Okay. Yes.
Sorry, Toshi from Kyoto News. I have a question related to TICAD.
To TICAD, yeah.
TICAD. Like many member states individually host those kind of conferences that talk about African development. But is it an ideal situation for the UN, because each member state talks about their own interests, and isn't it good for like African development? And what is the role of the UN in that kind of a conference?
Look,
would you help facilitate?
Right. Well, I think, we're never going to turn away from any meeting that aligns with our goals, especially when it comes to development on the African continent. You are not wrong in saying that different member states hosts different meetings with African leaders. What is important to us is that all those meetings should work in the same direction with the same goal. The Japanese development aid has been very much critical and very active, and TICAD is a very important platform, and our friends at UNDP and other UN agencies are also present. Okay. I wish you all a good day, wonderful week.